Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zerg. So, as I promised in the other videos, there will be more builds, and we have more builds. So this is another Zealot build we have going here. As you can see, this is not a Blazing Piety build. This is something a little bit different. So we'll start off with the weapons. We are going with the Relic Blade, the Mark X, and the modifiers are as such: damage, finesse, heat management, and power output, and mobility is the dump. By this point, you all know how I feel about mobility. Perk-wise, we're going with Carapace and Unyielding. This is going to help us get through those tougher enemies a little bit quicker. The kind of back-end modifiers don't need as much help with flak targets as some of the other weapons do, so we don't need the perk to hit the breakpoints. Next up, we have the Blessings. We're going with Cranial Grounding, reduces heat buildup by -6% and increases weak spot damage by +4% for 3 seconds on chained weak spot hit, stacking 5 times. And we're going with Rampage, hitting 3 enemies with an attack, increases damage by 36% for 3.5 seconds. This is giving us a nice mix of horde and single target damage. Again, like I say in all the other builds, you can change the blessings if you want to. Let's have a quick look in the masteries. Relic Blade. So if you don't want Rampage, you can go for something else, like, I don't know, Overload. From reaching a lockout state, you cause an explosion around you and immediately reduce heat by 25%. This is kind of like a set it and forget it kind of blessing. You don't need to micromanage. It just happens and it benefits you. I mean, you could go counterattack if you really want to, but it's just a pain in the ass. Energy leakage, it's okay. I mean, you know, heat sink, weak spot kills, and critical strikes kill reduces heat by 10% over 3 seconds. I mean, they're all good. Pick your poison, really. I like Rampage because it's lazy, but you can also go for other things. Right, let's jump back into the build. We are also using the Purgation Flamer. Again, mobility is the dump, because you all know how I feel about mobility. Perk-wise, we're going with 25% damage to Unyielding and increased critical strike chance by 5%. You can fiddle with this to your heart's content if you really, really want to. I just find the crit does seem to help a little bit. We're going with Blaze Away and Penetrating Flames, lol. Blaze Away gives us +8% strength for every 10% of the magazine spent during continuous fire, stacking 5 times. And Penetrating Flames direct hits apply 4 stacks of 2.5% brittleness for 5 seconds, stacking 16 times. Brittleness is basically rending that you apply to a target. If you don't want crit on the weapon, you can just change it to, I don't know, flak or unarmored. Flak is probably slightly more helpful. Unarmored is just going to help you clear out those trash hordes, a lot better. Next up, we have the Curios. We are going again for a 2 toughness, 1 max health style setup. The 2 toughness are twinned with stamina and damage resistance gunners with more toughness, and the max health one has got max health, stamina regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. You can take off some of the stamina regeneration for sniper resist if you want. I've just found since the Arbites patch, stamina regen does seem to help a build, especially when it's a fast-paced melee-focused build. For a ranged build, it's not so much, but for a pure melee build, stamina regeneration does help. So there we go. That is the weapon and item setup. Let's have a look at the talents. So we are starting off with Disdain, as always on this channel. 5% damage on your next melee attack for each enemy hit, stacking 5 times. Backstabber, because we want it for the flanking hits, not really for the backstab. Second Wind, replenish 15% toughness on a successful dodge. You should always be dodging. Duelist, because we are taking Blazing Piety. Purge the Unclean. I meant to say this isn't a Fury of the Faithful build, not Blazing Piety. I know I was wrong in the first bit. Purge the Unclean, 20% increased damage against infested and unyielding enemies. Immolation Grenade, just to go because I like the Immolation Grenade. As I said in the other video, you can pick what the hell you want here. It makes no difference. The Sunstorm Grenade is utility and survivability. The Immolation Grenade is for horde clear. And the Blades of Faith are for dealing with single targets to drop them very, very quickly. Pick your poison. It makes very little difference. It's just how you want to play. That is what you pick it for. Until death, fatal damage instead grants you invulnerability for 5 seconds, occurs every 2 minutes. Sustained assault, 4% melee damage for 5 seconds on hitting an enemy with a melee attack, stacks 5 times. Thy wrath be swift, enemy melee attacks cannot stun you. On taking damage, gain 15% movement speed. Then we're going down into Holy Revenant, and then down into Against the Odds. For every 2 enemies within 5 meters, gain 2% damage and 10% cleave, stacking 5 times. Providence. Yeah, it's useful. It's nice to help your allies. Faithful Frenzy for melee attack speed. Abolish Blasphemers for damage against elites. Good Balance, which gives us a successful dodge, grants 25% damage reduction. You should be dodging. We are taking Beacon of Purity, just because it's thematic for the build. Again, you can pick whatever the hell you want. It doesn't change the way the build works. Though this is very good if you're doing Havoc, because corruption is a big problem. Toughness boost, and then we're taking Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. Wield a holy relic that releases pulses of energy, well, blah, 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 blah. Each pulse replenishes 45% toughness to allies in coherency. If the ally is at full toughness, they instead gain 15 max toughness up to a total of 75. Each pulse also staggers and suppresses enemies, range increase with every pulse, 60-second base cooldown. And we're going for the Elysiarchal's Call. Channeling 5 pulses grants 30% damage to unit allies in coherency, lasts 10 seconds. So this is just very good for dealing with like run killing packs and, you know, basically be able to lock down entire groups, because everything becomes locked down while you're doing this. And then afterwards you get a big spike of damage. Can I have my pissing sword, please? Thank you. So, you know, it's very, very good. And most meta builds for Havoc tend to pick this because of the sheer survivability and utility that it brings to the table. So it's a very good talent. Right. That's that talked about. Let's go down into Toughness, damage reduction, and then we're picking up Punish Impiety. Push follow-up attacks grant 10% melee attack speed for 5 seconds. I know this sounds like a weird one, but the sword does have a very, very good push attack, which is a straight stab to the face. So you should be trying to weave this into your rotation, because doing this not only gives you a good weak spot hit, it also gives you 10% attack speed after doing so. And the sword does benefit massively from attack speed because it's a big, slow, two-handed weapon. And then we're going over into the Keystone Tree. Damage there. We're carrying Invocation of Death, 100% ability cooldown reduction for 3 seconds on melee critical hit. Melee critical hits apply bleed. Melee hits on bleeding enemies grant 10% crit for 3 seconds, stacking 3 times. Enduring Faith, toughness damage reduction on crit. Prime target 10% damage and replenish 15% toughness over 5 seconds on elite kill. Blazing Piety, 15% critical hit chance for 8 seconds when in Fury. Fury is triggered when 25 enemies have died within 25 meters. Critical hits also count towards triggering Fury. You don't have to kill the 25 enemies, they're just enemies that have died around you, so your team can contribute to this. Righteous Warrior, 10% critical hit chance from Blazing Piety. And then Stalwart, which is triggering Fury, replenishes 50% toughness. In addition, while Fury is active, you have 25% toughness damage reduction and replenish 2% toughness each second. So yeah, I know it's another Blazing Piety build, but I promise you there are, you know, Martyrdom and Inoctual Judgment builds in here. We're just getting to them. There you go. That is the Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude Blazing Piety build. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please do like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out, and I shall see you all for the next build. So until then, take it easy, and I shall see you later. Yo, folks.